Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. This is Nephilim VA bringing you the beginnings of a new fan fiction, named You Either Die a Villain or See Yourself Become a Hero, written by FantasyFreak_2 on AO3. Villain AUs are my beloved, so we must heed the trigger warnings before we proceed. This fanfiction is for mature audiences with canon-typical violence and trigger warnings for abuse, suicide, murder, bullying, and discrimination. If that isn't your style, then I recommend Shades of Green, which is written by Maybe It's Friendly on AO3. It can be found on my channel! Canon Divergence is the name of the game, with this tale of Class 1A being a class specifically for rehabilitating villains in the making. With that being said, the chapter summary is as followed. The A class of UA, also called the Villains class. It was a tradition going back to the beginning of the school at the dawn of the superhero era. Children that committed crimes but had the potential to use their questionable talents to become heroes got a second chance in life. The rule was made to stop the rising number of powerful villains by helping children who never had a chance in life and making them into powerful heroes. Of course, it was also tradition that very few managed to make it far. The courses were harder, everyone was constantly supervised, and basically nobody believed in the villains, and that they could become heroes. Usually only one or two made it to graduation. How long will Midoriya Izuku last? Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 1. Prologue. At the dawn of the hero era, only vigilantes existed. At some point in time, the government started to regulate them, to put a stop to the chaos. The first heroes were appointed. To help make those protectors more powerful while still being able to control them, a school was created. The first one in Japan was called UA. But soon it was discovered that some of the most powerful children never made it to school, already seduced by their own power or abused by adults to commit crimes. So the villain class was introduced for children who went wrong in their way but still showed promise. Of course, showing promise usually meant having quirks suitable for hero work, or powerful families with connections. But on occasions, people got in because what they had done was so spectacular that it showed promise in a different way. Midoriya Izuku blew his school up. He shouldn't be proud of it. He scared a lot of people and destroyed thousands of taxpayer money, but he didn't care. They had it coming. Every day he was teased and ridiculed and shoved around for being quirkless. Every day his teachers looked the other way or even berated him, until he snapped. He made sure no one would die. He wasn't a monster, but he knew he would go to juvenile detention for it. He had made his peace with that, but then things turned out differently. Izuku, as an expert of heroes, knew that each year the first class of the UA semester was reserved for young criminals who did something very wrong but still showed potential. Many people complained that they were rewarded for their bad behavior, and they shouldn't become heroes since they broke the law, but Izuku was always someone to give people second chances. After all, some of the greatest heroes only got where they were by coming out of the class. Best Genius and Pixie Bob were prominent examples of that. Well, now, Izuku was the one who needed the second chance. but since he was quirkless, he didn't believe he would ever get in UA. Still, without quite understanding how he got there, he now stood in front of the giant door of 1A, with the principal next to him. As the director opened the door, all heads turned to Izuku. There were 20 children in school uniforms sitting at their desks. As usual, they had a lot of different skin and hair colours, especially a girl with pink skin and horns, a boy with black skin and a beak, and a boy with tentacles that stuck out. Their school uniforms were nearly exactly like the ones the rest of UA had, just that everyone had a red button pinned to their shirt to make it clear that they were part of the villains class, as well as a bracelet on their arm. The bracelet tracked their position and heartbeat at any time. If they misbehaved, a teacher could command it to give the student either quirk suppressants or a narcotic. Izuku was wearing the exact same outfit right now. At the front of the class stood a man with long black hair in rather shabby-looking black clothing and with a long grey scarf wrapped around him. He looked annoyed at Izuku, then turned to the director. "What is he doing here?" Nezu didn't seem to be fazed by his sour expressions and answered happily. "Another student for you, Aizawa." Aizawa glared at Izuku. "I already have 20. The capacity is full." "There is always capacity for redemption," Nezu argued cheerily. "And let's be honest, most of them probably won't make it anyway. Last year you expelled your whole class on the first day, didn't you?" "He did what?" A boy with blonde hair that had a black lightning bolt running through it exclaimed, but nobody even looked at him. Aizawa sighed. "Fine. What's his quirk?" "He doesn't have one," Nezu answered cheerily. Now everyone looked at Izuku with even more questioning glances. He started fidgeting. Aizawa started rubbing his eyes. "You must be joking." No, Nezu laughed. "You accepted a student who blew up part of a building and hurt several students meanwhile." He looked at Kachan. Izuku knew exactly what the director was talking about. He was the reason it happened. "But you want to deny a student who blew up the entire school without hurting anyone? Midoriya here seems to have a lot more potential." Of course, Kachan couldn't take that. "What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Deku has more potential? If I had wanted, I could have..." Suddenly, the white scarf of the teacher was wrapped around Kachan's throat, cutting him off. Meanwhile, his eyes were glowing red and his hair was flying around him. Izuku saw how Kachan tried to use his quirk, but couldn't. There was only one hero who had this kind of quirk. Eraserhead. Eraserhead started talking to Kachan in a quiet but cold voice. "You should remember who you are. After what you did, you can be happy you even get a second chance. And if you even put a toe out of line, I will make sure you regret it." Izuku saw the anger in Kachan's face, but also the calculating look in his eyes. As much as his childhood friend was often controlled by his anger, he wasn't stupid. He knew he had to keep his head down to still have a chance to become a hero. So he just nodded once, stiffly, and after Eraserhead let him go, he slumped down without saying a word. Aizawa looked satisfied and turned back to Izuku. "Well, sit down then, problem child, but don't complain if you don't last a day in my class." Izuku had been discriminated against for being quirkless all his life. He simply shrugged. Still a day out of prison, isn't it? Several of his classmates giggled. If he were the Izuku from a year ago, he would be delighted to be at UA and meet so many heroes face to face. Instead, he just felt numb. He walked over to a free chair next to a boy with dark circles around his eyes and wild lilac hair. After he sat down, Eraserhead looked at the class. To anyone who doesn't know, my name is Aizawa Shota. I will be the homeroom teacher to those of you who manage to remain in class long enough. I won't lie to you. Most people drop out. UA curriculum is hard, and for you everything will be even worse. No one will believe in you except yourselves, and until you prove yourself over and over again, you won't have any allies around here. If you don't think you can do that, then you should leave right now and spare us all the hassle. Nobody moved or spoke. Aizawa smiled in a rather alarming way. Well, if that is your decision, then so be it. Today we'll do a quirk apprehension test. Basically, 8 fitness tests you're allowed to use your quirks in. Anyone I judge to be too weak will be expelled. Izuku raised his hand. But I don't have a quirk. Well, I warned you, problem child. Seems like you should better develop one very quick. A girl with a round face and brown hair raised her hand. But it's our first day, and if we don't conform to your arbitrary standards, we'll be brought back to prison. Welcome to your new life. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support you've given me. I found this fanfiction on TikTok, and I am not disappointed. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds, and don't think I didn't notice that Shinso is also in the class. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, FantasyFreak_2 on AO3. I would highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notification bell to be notified of when I next upload. There is no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing my sunflowers. Mwah!